Start broadcast. Welcome, everybody. We are very pleased to have you tonight on webinar number 3 in our series. Tonight, we are going to be talking about your ego and the link it has to self-sabotage. And we're going to be speaking about that for the next 30 minutes. Hopefully you enjoy this webinar. We are very excited to share it with you tonight. And when I say we, let's introduce our presenters for the evening. Elizabeth Pitt and myself, Randy Tate. So welcome everybody, and welcome Elizabeth.
Thanks, Randy.
You're welcome. So I'm gonna start first and introduce Elizabeth so that we can make sure that we let everybody know who we are and what we do. And Elizabeth is she's kind of a jack of all trades. She is world class in many things. She's a CEO coach. You know, she specializes in CEOs of usually $3 to $50 million enterprises, but she's also a world class executive herself at a major player in the software industry, and she's a world class entrepreneur. She has mad skills in taking small businesses and turning them into profit centers, and it's something she's very passionate about. She has been my business partner for the past 5-6 years now. And we are growing Growth Choice and spreading this word of abundance all over the place. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to Elizabeth Pitt.
Thanks, Randy. And then I get to return the favor. Let me introduce everybody to Randy Tate. Randy, as we mentioned, has been my business partner for the last about 5-6 years. Randy, in his own right, is a very successful entrepreneur. He started out as a high school teacher and athletics coach, and having sourced uniforms as a coach. Once he decided that he wanted to quit teaching and to become an entrepreneur and look at expanding his goals, he founded an athletic apparel company that he sold to publicly traded sports chalet after growing it to $5+ million. That is an elite act. It is unusual to be able to grow a business to that level of sales revenue and then to sell it to a publicly traded company. After doing that entrepreneurial journey, Randy, ever the teacher, to help other people learn from some of the mistakes he made, became an amazing small business coach, from the stage presenter about wealth and about business building, and he is an expert in building multiple streams of income. And I met him as he was on stage teaching about small business success. We hit it off. We realized that we had the same worldview, that whatever you want and whatever you can dream up can be yours. And so we're building Growth Choice together. We're so excited to have you on the call tonight.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was fantastic. I appreciate that. And, you know, you did say we share a worldview, and this is how we created Growth Choice. And I just do want to, you know, say thank you to all the people that are on this call tonight. We do have people from literally all over the world. There's people from Europe and Australia on here, and we're really excited about that. And so let's just take a minute here for those that haven't been on our series and get them up to speed in Growth Choice and what Growth Choice is and what we've created as our company and what we're committed to. And our mission and our purpose on this planet is to change what 1 million people believe is possible for themselves and their lives. And this is the mission statement we stand behind, correct, Elizabeth?
Yeah, you know, it came organically when we were saying, hey, what is this affinity that we have with one another around helping human beings see that whatever they want can be theirs, and that what's possible is everything. And you know, we want to go big, and we want to make sure that we have a big impact on the world. And that was where our mission statement was born. I think what's so interesting is for everyone on the call, you know, this is what Randy and I stand for, to change what 1 million people believe is possible for themselves and their lives. When we are getting new information or we're looking at a problem a different way, that's what's firmly in our mind. And I would ask all of you before we launch into the content to answer the question for yourself. What are you committed to? What's one thing that you're committed to? Think of that as we're walking through this content. Have that commitment swirling in the background, and you can apply what you'll learn tonight to that commitment.
Yeah, and we teach that commitment and we train people in that commitment in something we have coined the abundance game. Now, what you're looking at on your screen is just part of the abundance game. These are the pieces we've put in the first 2 webinars. Tonight, we're going to add 2 more pieces to the abundance game, and we're going to continue with the topics and as they layer into the game and how specifically you apply them to your life. So the first one we're going to layer in and talk about tonight is game creation. You want to talk a little bit about that, Elizabeth?
Yeah, in the past webinars, we've talked about your commitment, like our 1 million people and whatever it is for you, being an awe-inspiring mission, having the way that you talk about what you're committed to bring emotion to you when you say it. So when we say it is our commitment to change what 1 million people believe is possible for themselves and their lives, like that, I can feel that from my head to my toes. And so we talked in prior webinars about having your statement be similarly charged, have it inspire awe in you and in people you share it with because they feel your passion. And that, in essence, is the game you're creating. So you're creating the game of that. Randy and I have created the game of changing what 1 million people believe is possible for themselves and their lives. And we call it a game because in abundance, things are fun. It is a game. It is there to be created. No one else is creating that. Randy and I get to put our unique energy into it. So it is for you. When you have an awe-inspiring mission, that's the game. So the first part of any abundance journey is creating the game by articulating an awe-inspiring mission.
And then, what do we do next?
Yeah, and so then you've seen this arrow going from current path to awe-inspiring mission. So you're going down your current path, and maybe you have some ideas of what you might be committed to, but the minute you say game on, I've created this game, and it's called changing what 1 million people believe is possible for themselves and their lives. The only way to get from our current path to the game that we've created, to the end game that we've created, is there's going to be some action taking, right? We're going to have to look at problems in a new way. I'm not currently changing what 1 million people believe is possible, thousands of people, but not 1 million. And so I'm going to have to look at how I'm talking to people, who I'm talking to, the ways in which Randy and I are communicating. I'm going to have to take innovation steps. Each action is either going to work or it's not going to work. And so I'm going to have to massively micro-innovate the way that we approach this awe-inspiring mission. So you create the game, and then you take massive action, which turns into micro-innovations, that lead you from your current path to your awe-inspiring mission. The reason we wanted to layer on these pieces of the abundance game is because this conversation we're in tonight, your ego and self-sabotage, your ego loves to keep you on your current path, keep you nice and safe, free from risk-taking. And so the sabotage often happens during your massive action-taking. You have actions on the to-do list. You set up ideas of who you're going to call, how you're going to take some action. And that is always where a good friend, the ego, likes to show up and have a little bit of sabotage into the practice.
Yeah, that is correct. That fits perfectly right into what we're going to be speaking about tonight in regards to your ego and how the ego does attack this massive action-taking component, because without that action, and if we continue to just do what we've always done, we won't be able to even get to the game that we're trying to create of our awe-inspiring mission. So the first thing we're going to talk about tonight in relationship to our ego is that our ego generates fear and anxiety. That is the first thing our ego does to sabotage that massive action taking. It makes that first step seem, wow, what am I going to do? Oh, geez, worry, worry, worry. I can't do that. I've always done it this way. And so we want to start this conversation out with our ego generating fear and anxiety to keep us from doing something different.
Yeah, and so, we like to say, your ego's in the house when you're fearful and anxious. So just to be present, nothing to do yet, just to know that your ego generates fear and anxiety. And then to ask yourself the question, well, why would somebody generate fear and anxiety for us What would be useful about that? And ultimately, fear and anxiety keep us from taking action. When we think about how those actions will lead to future actions or outcomes that we either will like or don't like, all of a sudden where we're sitting safe in our chair seems a lot more tempting. So fear and anxiety are the ingredients to keep us from taking action. And they spin us around and they cause all kinds of worry feelings in our chest. And so then you know your ego's in the house when you're feeling fear or anxiety. The first thing to do is remember the last time that you experienced fear or anxiety. And if you were just present, that your ego was having something to do with that, that wasn't really you being fearful and anxious about your awe-inspiring mission. Instead, something about your ego to keep you stuck was in play. You know, does that give you a little bit of room to just pause and say, oh, this fear and anxiety isn't me. It's just my ego trying to keep me stuck in this safe place that it knows better than it knows this uncertain future.
Yeah, and our ego does that for a very good reason. I mean, if we were able to like pull our ego out and say, ego, why are you making me experience fear and anxiety? Because it's not very pleasant. Well, your ego does that because it has one major goal, and that is to protect you. Your ego truly is like the Avengers. It is something you've created, and it wants more than anything else to protect you. Just from the very notion of separation or being alone or doing something wrong, it creates that anxiety, and your ego wants you to stay in the status quo, do it like you've always done, in the safe place that creates little risk, no chance of doing that. And it's really interesting, and I'm going to ask you to explain this, Elizabeth. Elizabeth has a wonderful analogy about how we created ego and when that happened in our life and how it stays present like this for the rest of our lives. So share that, please, Elizabeth.
Sure. You know, it's interesting as we work one-on-one in coaching, and we hear about the ego talk track, and it's different for every single human being. Every person's ego has a different voice. And, you know, some of them are a little bit disparaging. Some of them are they talk gloom and doom. They're like listening to talk radio. Some of them are like they whisper gently and they seem awfully friendly, but they're actually keeping you stuck. And we like to say that somehow when we were little, you know, in the ever after, wherever we came from, when we were non-physical, we could magnificently create without the buffer of time and space. Like if you said blue, then blue appeared. Down here on the physical planet, we're separate from one another, so we're not in the same, you know, collective consciousness soup. And once you realize that we're separate, it can feel very lonely. And especially as a small child, you can feel really disempowered. You know, in your family, you don't have the access to the cash, you don't make the rules. And that feeling of going from being an all-abundant creator and wherever we came from to being this separate human being alone and disempowered, that just makes us really, really sad. And in that sad moment, we conjure up this ego protector who's like, I'll show them. I'm bigger than all of this. And so what happens with that ego is, yes, it is meant to be a protector, but it's ultimately not super authentic. We like to think that it was created in a moment of duress, in a moment of stress and pain in order to protect us. And so it is really interesting once you get in tuned with the ego voice in your life. You see it repeats itself. You can journal with it. And its intention is good, to keep you safe. But keeping you safe means the same risks that will lead to your heart's desire are not available to you. So that's why on one hand, protection's awesome. On the other hand, it can be very limiting, especially in the area of abundance.
Yeah, and there's a couple of different types of fear that the ego doesn't separate very well. We talk about primal fear versus real ego fear. And there's definitely a difference in being overwhelmed at work, and being attacked by a lion. You know, remember, we're in charge, not ego. Both activate that fight, flight response. And the ego likes it that we lose choice. Because when we lose choice and we refuse to make a choice, that means we stay the same. And so as we as we think about fear and anxiety, there's much more to lose when the lion's coming at you than when you got the big stack of paperwork. And so we like to definitely point out the difference between this.
Yeah, right. I mean, what we will often say in a coaching conversation, well, it's not like you're going to get your face eaten off by a lion if you don't do that thing someone asked you to do, right? So or if you do that thing that you're scared of, primal fear is very infrequent. It's very infrequent that you're facing a lion. Often we make a pile of paperwork or that phone call to ask a client for the money as scary as a lion that's about to eat your face. And so it's very interesting in that moment to have a chuckle and recognize, no, this is just ego fear. Like, I am not in mortal danger. And in that case, we say, by all means, stop what you're doing, run to safety. But most of the time, that's not what's activating our anxiety and fear. It's something that's pretty innocuous that we've made much bigger than it needs to be. And we've got our ego in the house whispering in our ear how it is mortal, even though it's really just a pile of paperwork or a phone call.
Yeah, the pile of paperwork will not jump up and bite you. It's funny. So as the ego is going to work, it starts to paint a picture. It paints a picture that's so scary that you just don't even want to move. And so what I'm going to ask everybody on this call to do, just for about 45 seconds, maybe a minute, I want you to just take a second and think about a conversation that you know that you need to have with somebody that you're really uncomfortable with. That you know that conversation's missing, you know you need to have it. And I just want you to observe what feelings that creates inside of you. Now, as you experience that first step, it's that first step in recognizing that ego is painting that picture of what that first step will look like, and it's doing it to protect you. The reason there's a missing conversation in your life somewhere is because you have some fear or anxiety around having it, and your ego doesn't want you to experience that. We want to encourage you to experience it, show the ego who's boss, and take that first step.
Well, and it is interesting, Randy, as we really dance with the others that are as committed to abundance as we are, and some of our clients when they really start to get bold. They start to lean right into the anxiety because they know that that very next step after the anxiety will move their project forward. In other words, the ego is pretty smart. It creates anxiety and fear around the exact thing that is going to move you toward growth and toward your awe-inspiring mission. So counterintuitively, you can start to seek out the things that give you a pang of anxiety or fear as the very next exact steps that you should be taking. We don't like the word should, that you might consider taking in order to catapult you forward towards your awe-inspiring mission.
Yeah, that's brilliantly said. And when we look at this and we say, okay, great, Randy, Elizabeth, that's awesome. I wish I could just tell my ego to buzz off and move on down the road. How do I do that? Well, one of the things you do, and there are a lot of techniques to do this within the game of abundance. However, we're gonna share one with you right now, and what we like to call ego's kryptonite, and that is serving others. Truly abundant creation, with your ego in check, it really starts with somebody else and your heart being full of service. When you have a servant's heart, the ego just is okay with that because you're acting in a way to help somebody else. And when you're coming from abundance and you're serving other people, ego just gladly steps aside and doesn't even get in the way.
Well, because, Randy, the most important part of that is when we are actually serving someone else, we're in the present. Like, you can only serve someone right now, like when you're being a servant to someone else. And the ego steps aside. We'd like to think that it's because he's aligned with our servant's heart. I like to think instead that he or she only gets to operate in the past or the future. So any energy that pulls us right into the now, serving other people, or the act of creating something, Those are the things that pull you into presence. Gratitude is another one, just being grateful. If you're feeling anxiety or fear, call up somebody and offer to do something for them. Experience gratitude as something that you truly are grateful for in the moment. You recognize those things can only be done in the now. The ego loves all about pondering of the past and the future, but is very powerless in the now, which is where a lot of abundance creation takes place.
Yeah, because we function so much as humans from our past. And we assume that because something happened a certain way in our past, it's going to happen that way again in the future. Therefore, the ego thrives in those two environments. So the present is definitely important. So the other place ego thrives, and loves to live is in right-wrong. Right-wrong truly comes from judgment and absolutes. When you are right or wrong, you have then killed possibility. So ego loves to come from right-wrong. Whether it makes you right or wrong, it doesn't care. It has love for both equally.
Yeah, and I think that, again, we've talked about how your awe-inspiring mission, which is your game that you've created, will be accomplished by massive action taking. Some of those actions will bear fruits, and some of them will not, and you'll learn from each one of them. But that means you're going to have a healthy relationship with ambiguity. The ego likes to call ambiguity just out of the realm of possibilities, because all of our innovations, all of our answers are found in that delicious space without a judgment of, is this going to work or not going to work? You don't know. There's curiosity. There's an opportunity to meet this moment without already predetermining which way it's going to go. When the ego is operating from right-wrong and meeting a brand new moment that's never existed, it's already got judgment on, is this going to be good or is this going to be bad? Is this the right way or is this the wrong way? I don't know. It's a way. Like, is this the way up the hill? I don't know. Let's walk a few more steps and see if we are going a way that will get us to the top. And so, in abundance, there's only, does it work or not work to get you towards your awe-inspiring mission? In ego and in playing it small and in being limited, there's only right-wrong. And right-wrong is really convenient because it's a shortcut. We do not have to consider what's in front of us. When you think about it, if we always had to consider the thing in front of us as if we've never encountered it before, that could be overwhelming. So the ego likes to keep us in a place of clear choice, and in so doing cuts off the possibilities that are the very new actions, innovative actions that get us from our current path to our state of our awe-inspiring mission. So it is interesting when you feel yourself being right, wrong, and judging yourself or a situation as good, bad, right, wrong, or you hear that coming out of your mouth or other people's mouths. Be really present to the fact that you're cutting off possibility and abundance. So those are keywords to listen for. For sure, ego's in the house when you're using right, wrong, good, bad, and for sure you're cutting off the possibility that exists in this moment if you meet it with curiosity and without judgment.
Yeah, and that's just not the verbal word. I would suggest that people consider listening to that internal voice. When that internal voice is in a conversation and all you hear is, that person's wrong, I'm right, you're right, you need to show them how you're right, then that's where you want to be present and be like, notice that ego, thank you. Can you just step aside for a minute? I'm going to be curious and see if what this person's saying is even possible. That will help you put the ego aside for a moment and create some abundance. Because abundance comes out of curiosity. So as we push towards the end, we only got about 5 minutes left here. We want to take a few minutes and talk to you guys about our retreat that we have coming up in May, and speak a little bit about what's going to happen at that event in May. It's 3 days in San Diego. Anybody that's wondering what the weather's like in San Diego, it's awesome. During those 3 days, we're really going to spend a lot of time on you building your own abundance game. And you're going to leave with your own awe-inspiring mission or missions, and a bunch of massive actions to take. That will come from a new perspective on abundance, whether it's I don't make enough money, or I don't, I'm too tired, my life's a shambles, I need, or my life's good, I just need to tweak it a little bit and do a little bit more. So we want to invite each and every one of you to our fundamentals retreat in May. Elizabeth, anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, I think we're down to 17 spots, so we are starting to have some spots fill up, and so we've got about 6 weeks. But this is something that you're really considering. What would it be like to create an on-site mission and have some hands-on help to do that, and have some partnership and thinking about the massive actions? This is absolutely the place to do that. Randy and I will be working one-on-one with folks. This is a nice small atmosphere, and we will just get a lot done, and we will make a lot of traction to whatever you've been dreaming up this year. And it really, miracles do happen in groups and in masterminds, and so this is the perfect size for you not only to learn from me and Randy, but to learn from each other. I'm really excited about how we put this retreat together, Randy, and it's going to have a lot of dreaming and abundance going on in that room.
Yeah, we have a couple of things for you that are some bonuses. For those of you that don't know or haven't seen some of the contests we've been running on Facebook and some other things, we are launching our book, 365 Days of Abundance. So everybody that does come to the event, you are going to get one of the first copies of the book that will be published by then, and we will be making sure that each and every one of our attendees get a book, and you'll be seeing the announcement of the cover, which cover won the poll here shortly. That will be announced on Facebook, and I'll send an email out to everybody on this call as well. That's one thing we're going to get. And the other thing we want to make sure we understand, because we know businesses function in a very specific way. Many people have partners in their business. So we wanted to make sure that you understand that those 20 spots are 20 businesses. You can bring your partner. The cost of the event includes you and one other person, not one other person in some other business. You can't just buddy up. Your business partner, we want you to be able to bring them for free. And why do we do that, Elizabeth?
Well, you're co-creating with your business partner. Just like Randy and I have our awe-inspiring mission that we both put our mind into, it is so important to be on the same page and to get that time working on your business together. So especially for visioning work, it's critical to have those who are co-creating with you in the same room to feel the emotions that happen when you are nailing what it is that you're really dreaming up, and you're creating new ideas for the actions that you'll take to get it.
Exactly. And all of you have probably received an email inviting you to the webinar. If not, you will. To the event. It's only $1,299, which we do know is underpriced for what you're going to be getting in those 3 days. We added a third day at the request of another person we work with a whole bunch, and we are going to have a very special guest joining to attend on that Saturday on the last day, and he'll be there Friday as well. Should we tell him who it is, Elizabeth?
Of course. We have to.
Go ahead.
So Chalmers Brothers, who is one of our esteemed coaches, and we work with him, and we do a lot of talking about this abundant world that we have that exists through language. He's written the book Language and the Pursuit of Happiness. He is an amazing human being. He's got a TED Talk out there about how we created language. His name's Chalmers Brothers, and we're just so honored to have him joining us, and he'll be there on that third day. So that is a super exciting treat for everybody.
Yeah, we are stoked about that. And in case you are wondering where is this event going to be at, it is going to be at the Sheraton San Diego Harbor. We just finalized negotiations with them today, so we'll have a contract tomorrow. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you these are all views from that hotel. That's where we'll be spending 3 days creating abundantly, creating your awe-inspiring mission and your individual abundance game over those 3 days. So we're super excited to have, hopefully, all of you attend. Well, maybe not all of you. There's only 20 spots.
Well, you know, as many of you as we can, and please, if you have any questions about anything that we didn't cover on this webinar, reach out. We're so excited to have this space open for abundant creation. The Sheraton San Diego Harbor is gorgeous. It's right there by downtown San Diego, so you're steps away from downtown. We've got the backdrop of the harbor. I can't think of a more abundant place, Randy, to be hosting this conversation with other people committed to abundance like we are.
Me neither. I'm super excited to do it. So thank you for your time tonight, Elizabeth. Thank all of you on the call for being on here tonight. And this will be posted on our YouTube channel. I will email out a copy of this webinar as well. So again, thank everybody, and we will see you later. Good night.
Thanks, guys. Good night.